Namaste, Sharon ma'am.
Namaste.
Wel- Welcome you on Nirvikalpa Talks. Thank you so much from the entire team of Nirvikalpa for graciously accepting our invitation.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, we would like to know that your classical dance journey actually in India started with Manipuri and the Chau when you came to learn more about Manipuri dance. But how did you get a calling for learning Odissi dance too?
So it's a good question. When I came to continue my training in Manipuri, it wasn't possible to be in Manipur because of restrictions for foreigners. So the Fulbright office placed me in Delhi at the Triveni Kala Sangam. And while I was studying Manipuri there, Guru Kailacharan Mahapatra came and gave a workshop in Odissi, which I watched. It was very interesting. It was wonderful to see a group of more than a dozen, maybe 15 dancers training under him. But I wasn't interested in being a dance collector, and I just enjoyed watching it. He returned the following year, and that was actually right at the end of 2 years that I'd been in India. And I decided that it might be worthwhile to take the workshop just for academic purposes, to have a little understanding of another tradition which would be more familiar to audiences. So I took permission from my Manipuri guru. I said, if it has any effect on my style, I'll stop. And he said it was fine. And so I started the workshop with Kelu Babu, intending that would be it, a few months and that would be it. But the thing that, as it turned out, as you all know, to do a proper choka position or an Ardha Mandala or in Western dance, a plie, along with everything else you learn, it takes perhaps 2 years to be able to properly work in that position. But because of my 17 years of ballet and modern dance, I had no trouble with that. And also the torso isolation. It's used differently, but I also had that. So after 2 weeks, Guruji had me demonstrating for the beginning class, and he said that I learned faster than anyone he taught because of my foundation. Then he taught me Batu. He taught me, of course, Namami. And then Surendranath Jaina's daughter, Pratibha, wanted to learn Savari Pallavi. So he told me to learn it with her. And I was like, this isn't possible. How can I do this? He said, just do it. So, and then he insisted that I record the music, that I get a costume made. And so Kavita Shudrani, Bharatanatyam dancer, daughter of Mr. Shudrani, who headed the Triveni Kala Sangam, she took me to get the proper sari. And I remember I told him I wanted white. He said, you can't have white for your first costume. So I got a blue. And then that summer I went back and taught at University of Michigan. I taught Manipuri, but I also presented the Odissi. Basically, because of Kelu Babu's incredible teaching, his pedagogy, his way of teaching, and his generosity, that influenced me to continue. And then the following summer, I had gone to Kala Vikas Kendra in Cuttack. That was the last summer that he was teaching there. And he said, don't say what a short time you've learned, it won't make sense to anyone. And he had me perform these 3 items. The first, Namami, of course, with all the students in the summer course. Then Batu with 4. And then Savari Pallavi with the teacher at Kalavikas Kendra and 1 scholarship holder. And he also insisted that I perform a Manipuri piece because they should become familiar with that. And then that was it. Over the years, I continued training with him. Obviously, it was a great blessing to be trained by him. And he was very generous, as I said, as a teacher. He accompanied my tour, 22 performances and lectums in the US in 86 that I organized myself, but that the ICCR director, who happened to see my performance, volunteered that he would send musicians. So I had Kelu Babu, I had Pandit Bhubaneswar Mishra, I had Pandit Rakal Mohanty vocal, and Ratikant Mahapatra playing Guinea. And so it was magical, and we went on from there.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And
It's
and the thing
fascinating.
about yeah, and the thing is that, as we all know, when you're learning a new dance tradition, obviously you spend years on technique. What's surprising as to me as much as anyone else, that I had a forte for Abhinaya, and the opportunity to go deeply into the text was something that I've always enjoyed, and I think that more than anything kept me wanting to continue both performing his items, going deeply into them, and then doing a lot of my own choreography over the decades.
Wow, that's really fascinating to know about this, about
Thank
your
you.
journey, how it started. So, on that note, this year marks your 50 years journey in Odissi dance. Today, when you look back, can you share with us what influence did Odissi and learning the other two Indian classical dance styles, Manipuri and Chao, has influenced, and what impact that have given on you as an artist for life?
Well, again, another good question. I feel that Odissi is perhaps, I mean, we all have seen Bharatanatyam trained dancers take up Odissi. And coming from Manipuri, I feel that Odissi is kind of in the middle. And so the lyricism and the flow of Manipuri informed the lyricism in the Odissi, where sometimes Bharatanatyam dancers, they struggle with the torso movement and the lyricism because they're so tuned into that wonderful geometric precision.
Right.
One thing that was very difficult was that in Manipuri, it's a very meditative dance, and the focus is on the hands. And so if someone is even 2 feet in front of me, I don't see them. And so it was very difficult at first for me with the Odissi to actually look out, and to it was like I felt very shy to project out that way. And the Chow, it's a long story, but because I had the training, there was a great guru. I saw people came from abroad, were thrilled in a couple of weeks, whatever they learned. I thought, let me do this. So, I would be told at times, like, you have to choose one style. No one will take you seriously if you're doing more than one. And I said, can you ask a mother to choose between 3 children? Because each form is so different. Different not just in the stepping, but different in the energy and the dynamics of the art. And so what I found was that if you are keeping the different styles up at the same time, then when you find yourself drifting, you can be aware and then pull it back, both in terms of the size of movements, but also the dynamics and the energy, which is so important.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. I think Chow would have also helped you to gain a strong core and hold of body.
Well, what many dancers think when they see Chow is they see the leg lifts. But as you said quite accurately, it comes from the core. But that is the basis in both modern dance, what now is called contemporary, modern dance and ballet. It's all from the core. And so basically I had all of the strength, the flexibility, and the control to do chow. So again, when I started doing it, I could do everything. Of course, the genre is very different, and how you use the energy and the dynamics is absolutely different. But that strength, flexibility, and control was something that, fortunately, I already had that foundation. I mean, after I learned, I started in early '74, perhaps, and in the next summer, no, it was '76, because I was out the summer of '75. '76, I went to Baripada, and my guru, Guru Krishna Chandra Nayak, insisted that I perform for all the senior gurus. And I said, please, I won't, I'll make mistakes and it'll reflect on you. He said, no, 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 you have to do it. And he wanted them to see that a female can actually do everything that the male dancers can do. And in fact, I think maybe even a couple of decades later, there was one Bengali visiting and saw that they were training girls and asked, and they said, yes, there was an American who came, and we saw that, yes, the girls can be trained in Chow, so we've taken up their training as well. They
Yes, yes.
used to think
I
that
read
you
that
couldn't
article.
leave. Yeah.
I think I read that article where your dance performance has had that impact in the audience, where they were able to think beyond that the chow is not only for male dancers, female dancers can also pursue it.
As far as Mayurband Chow and Saraikela Chow, which I took up in '81 after dancing in mask festivals and having a background of many, many years in puppetry, I thought it would be good to also learn some of the Saraikela Chow mask repertoire. But I would never attempt Purulia Chow, because that I remember Gambhir Singh, doing somersaults, landing on the knees. They're such strong agriculturalists. They're deep, deep Mardala choke. That is something I could never do. That you have to be a man, I think.
Okay. So, ma'am, as a dancer, when we dive into more intricate and delicate choreographies, traditional choreographies, was language a barrier for you initially? And what advice would you give to the dancers who have different origins to overcome this barrier?
Well, when you have a difficulty, you can turn it into an advantage. So yes, obviously it was a difficulty. And but what I found is, if I turned to another, let's say Guruji is teaching a new Odia Obinaya, and when he's first teaching it, I don't have the text first day. So I turn to someone and say, what does the line mean? They'll give me a very general interpretation. They are very possibly never going to go more deeply into that. So, but what I would do, initially, obviously, Odia text and Sanskrit, that means that I have the text, I have the transliteration, I have the translation. I mean, no, I don't have that. I have the transliteration. Then I have to understand word for word, because obviously a general line won't have it in the correct place, right? And so you have to know every word, the denotation, its meaning, but the connotation. What was the poet's intention in that word? What are the multiple meanings of that word in terms of aesthetics and philosophy? And so going through connotation, denotation, then discussing with, whenever I had the opportunity, with scholars to explain more about the text. So you have to know what exactly, I mean, whether it's Sangam or Bhakti, Jayadev, Chandidas, whatever it is, modern, you have to know who was the poet, what was the era, what was the philosophical underpinnings. Is it Sahaja Vaishnavism? Is it Gaudiya Vaishnavism? Where does it stand? And then I would say also you have to get a feel for bhav is bhav, abhinay is bhav, and yet there can be subtle differences between how an Odia village girl might behave compared to how someone in Kerala or Punjab might behave. So you have to embody that so that, and then the biggest advantage is that for a dancer who understands the language, when they're performing, they may feel that their audience is listening to the text and understanding. And so they may be doing hand jive that doesn't communicate. They're leaning on the text, the music, the whole ahariya, everything. But my perspective is that once I understand it, it's my responsibility to make the audience understand it and feel it, even if they don't understand the words. And even when you know language, sometimes the way it's sung, you can't really follow it, or it's an older dialect of the language. And so I've always been conscious of the responsibility that the audience has to understand through my expression and action, and not just that I'm doing a hand jive and figure that they'll understand it by the words. So that actually has been a real plus. And also, it's meant that I've been very comfortable in doing things in different languages. So over the years, there were many Doordarshan productions where I'd be asked to do something in Dogra or Braj Bhasha or Bangla. And then later, when I'm performing in Tyagaraja festivals or in Kerala or wherever, I would always take something that fits the aesthetic of Odissi, sung by someone from that tradition, but with my own Mardala, Pakawaj, and, in Odissi style, but they're singing, so that I could do, if I'm going, when I went to Kerala first, then I'm going to do an invocation to Padmanabhan. And then Shringar Adiveni by Swati Tirunel. So it's similar to our Ashtapatis. And then I thought, okay, enough with Shringar. Let me do a lullaby everyone knows, a Manatingal, and change the ending where the mother is singing the lullaby as the child goes off to the guru. And, and obviously, whether it's Tyagaraja or whatever. So that extra effort that I was in the habit of putting in to deconstruct and understand the text made it also very comfortable to work in other languages.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's really commendable that how much efforts you might have put in understanding the hardcore Odia Abhinaya pieces also.
It's not commendable. It was required. I mean, it's definitely
Yes,
what
yes.
was required. I mean, and as I mentioned, I was honestly very touched when on International Mother Language Day that the Odiyas of Delhi at the JNU University Language and Literature Department gave me a Prabhasi Bhasha Saman. And that meant that they acknowledged that the language is communicated also through dance, not only through literature that you read. And so, I mean, that was very touching because the languages I'm fluent in are dance languages rather than spoken languages.
Absolutely. Now we are going to touch a very heartwarming topic, Guru Shishya Parampara. So when you used to stay in Gurukul with Guruji, can you emphasize on how different and holistic learning it was? how we as a young generation can try to retain that essence of parampara while starting their teaching journey.
For one thing, Guruji Jari, who would come to the house every day and do puja. So that meant that all of us were part of that, maybe playing manjiras or whatever. And so the ethos of that devotion, of how to do it, so that, if you're doing a lamp and, ringing a bell, all of these things, one embodied from that. And he took such an interest in all of his students. I mean, he would inform somebody they should use a tooth scraper, clean their teeth. And in fact, the first summer that I was there, his ballet was performed in a village with all the students. I just went along, of course. We went in an open bed truck, and he not only did the makeup for every dancer, but he did it from stone ground colors, pigments. So he would mix it, rub it together, and he would do this. He, of course, painted, and he also did the alta on everyone's feet. And he did it for everyone so that everyone would be perfect. He was very involved in everyone's habits, how they lived. I mean, obviously, how you tie your sari, what you do, and so you observe. I mean, we slept on the floor on mats with mosquito nets. One of the things that was sort of funny, talk about being in a gurukul. So in order to go, there wasn't a bathroom. There was, across the courtyard, there was an area with a hole in the ground where you had to be very careful of the giant cockroaches. But before you went to the bathroom, anything that you needed, you had to take to the bathing area, put the bucket of water, which you might have to get from the well, put that there, and have your clothes, toothbrush, shampoo, whatever you needed. Because after you went to this hole in the ground toilet, then you had to bathe, and you had to wash all of the clothes that you were wearing then. And you couldn't, get dressed and like go and get your toothbrush if you forgot it or something. Everything had to be done there, and it would take a while and come out. And I mean, and so many of the things, whether it's flowers, whether it's playing manjiras, whether it's how you wash your hair, so many of the various things that we do in the dance, we gained from him. And then, like, when I asked him once, and I've said this, so you probably read it. I asked him once, I said, like, can you give me like, to do Abhinaya? Should I, like I see in Bharatanatyam, that a dancer will like have formulated things, like raise the hand, raise the chin, raise the eyes, specific things for a particular expression. Should I look in the mirror? And he said, you just have to feel it. And so just feel it means that you have to understand it. And all of those things that I was saying about the text, you have to understand that. Then you can feel it. And so you're not acting like you're doing it. I mean, I also tell my students, you remember in school when students are in drama and they're speaking very clearly, they're acting like the character, but they're not being the character. And so you have to be it, not act like you're being the character. And of course, he was the greatest example, following his bhav. Oh, another thing he used to do is he would, as we sat in a semicircle, let's say Kurgananand, and you're doing like this. So then he would do an imitation of each one. And it was so funny because instantly you knew which dancer it was when he did their butt, whatever it was. And you knew exactly who it was as he did that. Um,
This
and
shows
he
that how
also, yeah, go on.
this shows that how particular his observation was in like yeah.
I think he was one of the earliest teachers, certainly the earliest in Odissi, um, that could actually teach a group at the same time. Because previously, you have one at most two disciples at a time, so you can watch them and teach them. But he could see everybody and correct the defects. Um, and that was a remarkable, of course, he was a genius, but it was a remarkable thing that he could give everyone corrections. And yeah.
So by staying there with Guruji, what are the minute things by observing that you have learned and have kept with you for lifetime till now?
Well, one of the things is his generosity. And what I mean by that is that at the end of a summer, uh, as the dancers are leaving back to Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, and he would talk to me and he would laugh and he'd say like he would do an imitation that they'd take the cassette, wrap it up, throw it over their shoulder, and then go home, forget about it, eat bel puri, and he knew that not only did he have the ability to teach many dancers, but he also was fully aware that he had no control, real control over the dancers. And he had so much confidence in his art that he didn't care that some of them are going to be cheaters, not do his dance properly, do shortcuts or whatever, because he knew that, they'll do what they're doing, they'll get their couple of programs and they'll fade. Whereas those that were really sincere and serious and dedicated, that they would continue up. In the past, and even today, with many gurus, they want to have full control over their disciples. They don't want you to do any program somewhere else. They don't want you to see other dancers. Meet others. There's that effort to control. And so what I took away from Guruji was trust the art, and it's their own karma, what they do with it. But by being generous, hopefully those it's a responsibility to the legacy to share it. And then where it goes. And not to try to control. That's another thing. One of the things that my students really appreciate is like, may I do this, ma'am? Yes. Can I go there? Yes. And because everyone, you see, when you're learning a tradition, at first, you must exactly model what your guru has taught you. But then you have to make it your own. That doesn't mean changing things or distorting it, but you have to bring your own personality and your own, what you are, into the art that makes it unique, not by kitschy, but because you can look at the same item by multiple dancers, but we want to see you in it, and how you interpret the character that you're portraying, or the dasi or whatever.
Yes, absolutely, ma'am. Um, so you have taken your initial training in modern dance, mime, theater. So how did that experience help you in creating your own choreographies?
Very much so, because one of the things is when I was in primary school, I realized that every year you're going to get busier. So anything that might be possible to take on, take it on. So I might not be a great artist, but take a cartooning class, join the book club, do this thing, the Girl Guides, whatever it is. When I was 12, I decided that much as I love dance, I could never be a professional dancer because I couldn't give up all of my other interests to be one track and spend that amount of time only in class. So I did many things. But nothing that you learn is ever lost. And it all comes into what you bring to the art. So unless you just want to learn dance as a skill and be able to be in a group and be able to do the steps, but if you want to be able to be creative, you have to bring everything in. In the era pre-war, post-war of modern dance was a place for thinking women when there was few career opportunities elsewhere. So you were dancing, but it was imperative that you also knew literature, philosophy, you knew all of the classical music, modern music, related arts, visual arts, because everything that you had comes into it. Obviously, you also develop stage presence. So, okay, so a couple of things that very much come in from that background. One is the training that I had in mime and pantomime means that when I'm teaching, I'm very particular that, for instance, if you're holding a child, they don't suddenly be this big and then that big, or you're holding them and you drop. I mean, I see so many dancers dropping the baby. It's like, it just, it's like, you should practice. Or even something simple as a flute. You can't have a flute that way. Physics doesn't allow it. It has to be straight, whether your hands are here or whatever. So if you're playing a mardala, even in Batu, I say, pick up a drum. How are your hands? Where are they? Yes, where is this? Hold a vina, so you don't wind up with things that like are insane, because it can't go that way. If you're doing, like I have a Mirabai and she puts a little stool for cushion to sit on. You can't walk through it. If you put something on the stage, even like in Ashtapadis, if you're spreading flowers and then you're going to go, look, don't walk right through it. So the sense of space and the sense of the shape and size of things. And one thing that Kelu Babu did was he used his environment. So he was not oblivious. If he's on a stage and there's plants on the stage, he'll use the plants. He'll go over and use them to look. Whatever there is, it's there. So being aware of the space. The other thing that I bring from my previous training is an understanding of effort shape and some terminology. So it's helped me in teaching the students about the dynamics. So it doesn't all become blah, 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 and it's all big, which is okay for one piece with a big group, but is very dull if everything is boom, 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 boom. Or like teaching that, for instance, when you have your hand, it's because of the rib movement that the wrist is going, and so you're not flapping your hand, but it's what we call a space hold for the fingertips,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's there or there. And if you're going down, 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 it's not do, 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 like a windshield wiper. And also like using the space. So one of the things is that in Indian dance, we use the space around us, which is why we can come onto a stage. We don't have to practice on the stage. You can figure out if you've got 8 whatever to get around, 4 gets you to the back. In Western concert dance traditions, you're aware of the architectural space, and so how you use that. And so I see many dancers um, kind of truncating. They're just kind of like doing things in space. One time I performed in Chicago, and my girlfriend said, "Have you been dancing in your living room?" Because things weren't using the space. So for instance, if you're bringing your hand around, instead of it just going around you, I'm like, extend through your fingertips like a protractor so that you're reaching to the side, to the back. You're drawing a line through the whole universe, and you get a big Anga Brahmari with it rather than just a like, da, 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 da. You know. So things like that.
Absolutely. It's very important to learn the dynamics, and especially when is the responsibility of a dancer on stage to understand the elements that you are portraying, and like the audience understands that okay, this is the element that you are showing, so you can't suddenly get rid of that. It does exist for them, even when you are not working on that element. So, as in when a dancer performs, he should think that what all elements you are using and to use it properly, because it is everything in dance. It is for classical dance. It is not necessary to use the props. If I am correct, I'm correct me.
Use the props.
Huh.
Use the props. It's not deductible.
So that's why we are
Props.
creating a virtual prop
What
for.
make I mean it's lokodarmi. What makes it a higher art form is that one dancer is creating multiple characters without props. If you are adding more, you've got more characters, that's fine. It's lokodarmi. Nothing wrong with that. It's entertaining. It's not considered, as sophisticated a level. And the thing is that you are, of course, abstracting. It's not like everything is pantomime. But if you let's say have a lamp and you have it in one place, obviously you're not making everything totally realistic, but don't walk through it, you know. In other words, when you've got something established. Um, and again, the babies, the cradles and everything, dropping babies, and the size of the babies. It's like, so wait a minute, are we talking about an infant? Are we talking about a 3-year-old? Who is your Krishna? And again, these are these things when, if you have in your mind what is the age of your Krishna, then you can make him the correct size instead of him being abstract in any
Ma'am,
age.
working with different choreographies, um, like it is always a challenge and a struggle to balance both the tradition and the innovation. So, what would you suggest the dancers of young age to prevent the disappearing line, and still stay rooted to the tradition?
It's a very challenging question. Is that what are the parameters of when are you going out of form or not? Um, every art form, for one thing, has its own aesthetics. Some of them, in terms of the balance, which are very entertaining, and then some of the aesthetics in terms of the aim is sattvic, evoking rasa, right? So there are things and a wide range of things that you can do in Odissi or other classical traditions, but there are things that perhaps are beyond the pale. If someone wanted to do a dance about the Holocaust, that is a very valid artistic thing to do, but not in Odissi, because it doesn't really work. My big challenge, of course, was when I was asked to do Fakir Mohan Senapati's Chamanantagunta, which is a subaltern text, 1905, very sarcastic, iconic, about a zamindar and his mistress who are cheating a poor, lovely couple out of their cow, it's and I was like, how do I do this in Odissi? Because this is not Odissi's aesthetics. And what I came up with was actually very well received, even by very conservative Odia Rasikas, and performed a number of times, where the songs would be done in Odia, and then a lot of this bhav that was like that would be done with narration. So she has a nose. If a woman has a nose, if she's a princess and has a nose like an owl, she's still beautiful. That kind of thing. But it took very careful handling, and it's very difficult to say a sharp line that this is totally wrong. But there, and rules can be made to be broken. But there are things. I mean, one thing is looking at Shastra, Natya Shastra. So if it says in Natya Shastra that you don't do certain things, then don't do it, But again, there's a flexibility, somewhat. So for instance, you're not supposed to stick your tongue out. But in Deva Prasada style, you have my colleague with her tongue out. And so he's drawing on not just going into Shastra, but into what was there in folk and Gotapur traditions. So there you've got this little bit of a flexibility. This style that would say, we'll pass on that. The other was like, no, it's fine. And I would say it is fine. But there are things that begin to take it away. So here's an example I gave the other day. There are things that are done that are based on a classical tradition, but are not that tradition. So if someone is doing tribal belly dance and they're trained in Odissi, they are going to make their belly dance performance much more sophisticated and nuanced because of their abhinaya and because of some of the classical movements that they're bringing into it. But it's not Odissi, right? They're drawing on Odissi. They don't call it, I'm doing Odissi in this costume and with these movements, okay? That would be inappropriate. But if they've got the training and they bring it into that, it enriches that. So there are things that if you want to do something that becomes very contemporary, maybe very jazzy, very entertaining, and you're using a lot of Odissi techniques, but it's a really more of a contemporary fusion, then it's great. You can say it's based on Odissi, but you can't call it Odissi. It's gone beyond the parameters. And as far as, and okay, another thing for young dancers is, first of all, we're communicating the inner world that we all share. Whether it's a medieval text or a modern text, the human emotions, the issues are the same. Taking up social issues, if you feel very strongly about an issue and you are doing something for an audience where it will have an impact, that's something you can do. But if you're doing it because you think it's trendy, that the novelty will get you, appreciation or opportunities. It's like, I remember when the head of the National Women's Commission, Mohini Giri, asked me about doing something on girl child. And I said, Mohini ji, it's frankly a waste of your money and of my time for me to do something about girl child for the audience at the Indian International Center in New Delhi. If it's being done for Jugi Jampri or something, I said that money would be better spent on banners on buses saying that the man is responsible for the gender of the child. So if you care about an issue, it should be done in a way it's going to actually reach people that should get that message. And, it depends on the individual, but doing things for novelty's sake isn't worth it, in my opinion. it's kind of a cop-out. Doing fusion, there's good fusion, but a lot of it is because you can't be articulate in one dance language, so you smush it all together. Um, that's, you know, you can ask more of yourself, and the audience deserves more than that.
So, ma'am, here what you have said, you have touched upon the choreographies that are related to social topics. So, this brings to my next question that nowadays we see that many platforms are giving opportunities for theme-based productions. So, do you think, like, I have heard in an interview of yours that you have performed Odissi repertoire and gave a performance at that time for 2 to 2.5 hours also. And audience used to stay there and watch the entire traditional repertoire performance. So, do you think that this shift to doing more of the productions is a way to retain the engagement of the audience? And if so, then how the traditional items or choreographies in which the our Gurujis have invested in so much will survive? And what about the OTC repertoire? What will
Well,
happen?
I mean, all of that is good. All of that is possible. I mean, all of our performances were 2.5 hours. We would do like an hour and 15 minutes, then 15-minute interval, change costume, and then do another hour. Um, and that was standard. In fact, I love telling the story that Empresario Rajalingam in Malaysia, after the first program of a tour, he said, "You only did 2 hours and 20 minutes. Tomorrow you have to add one item." And it's like, yay, like glad people want more. To be a soloist and hold an audience for 2.5 hours um, is not something that happens overnight. And so now dancers are in groups. Their gurus are not training them as soloists. They just want to have them in the group. You to hold an audience is something that you have to develop that dialogue with the audience. So you're connecting with them, you're sharing with them. You can't just be up there looking pretty. Doing social issues is absolutely fine. There's nothing, I mean, I've seen fabulous productions on social issues. Doing productions nowadays, of course, you don't want to you do a production that's 1 hour, hour and 15 minutes max, and on a theme. But what that theme is depends entirely on what you feel like doing. I've done, for instance, years ago, I did at Kamani, Nectar from the Blue Lotus. So I did an evening of different nayakas in different languages, in poetry from different, not only Odia, but a bunch of different languages with different nayakas. I mean, there's all kinds of themes of productions, and they don't have to be only social issues. That's absolutely great. But there's plenty of things that you can do that are coming from. In fact, I'm curating an evening production that will be on bhakti poetry inspired by Jayadev. Not only Jayadev's poetry, but for instance, Guru Nanak and many other bhakti philosophers, poets, saint poets were inspired by Jayadev. So bringing those in together depends on your own interest.
I think you have done one Panchanayika production also, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Panchanayika of Kalidas,
Kalidas,
right?
yes. Yes. It's a very beautiful production that how you have blended and interpreted Pallavi in it.
It was because the director is extremely knowledgeable, Kamalini Dutt. And also, before I came to India, I took a semester of video production and a semester of photography, along with my master's, to prepare for coming to India, because I thought I'd be going back to academia. what we did, the reason that production was unique is that instead of having a production, a dance evening, because it was for television, it's just like when you go from the temple to the stage. When you go from the stage to the television, you don't have to do the same thing. That's why 5 nayakas meant we could have 5 sets, 5 costumes by making each one 5 minutes. And we could plan it accordingly and do it. Yeah.
Wow, great, ma'am. Great to know. So now I would like to ask something based on technology. Earlier, there was less online promotion of Odissi. Now, because of the technology and like awareness is much more spread about Odissi dance as an Indian classical dance form. Not about Odissi I'm talking about, but all the other Indian classical dance styles. So, is technology being is actually a support for us, or it is somehow diluting the essence of authenticity and originality of Odissi?
Well, it depends on who. Um, when I had Lakshmi Vishwanathan speak in my seminar, she said that it's the responsibility of the students to do the research and to study. You're not living with your guru, the time is limited. And so for them to be explaining everything about aesthetics, about Shastra, about many things, you now have the internet so that you can research all of these different things. Who are the poets? Who are the characters? And you can do this on your own. If you think that you can learn things from what Kumudini Lakia once called in one of my workshops, seminar, she called it YouTube Gorana. YouTube Gorana. You're not gonna be a great artist. You can be C plus, B. I mean, you could look at something and try to copy it. But you can't just look at something on YouTube and learn it. With the exception if someone were a professional dancer in that particular style by that guru, and then there was an item. But even then, unless you're seeing it by the guru, and then also they're adapting it. They're not doing the choreography that they finalize that they teach. They're improvising. And there are so many things to understand that you need to have the guidance of the guru. Plus, you need the luxury of the feedback of the guru or a knowledgeable person seeing you and giving you the corrections. So internet is fantastic. Because of COVID, we all teach online. It's so convenient. Open your laptop, you don't have to travel. But within limitations, and one has to respect that.
Absolutely right, ma'am. In fact, dance, any art form requires a lot of devotion and surrender. This brings to my new last question for this segment. That is devotion and surrender to the art and God same or different? What is your take?
Um, it depends how you define. It depends how you define God, art, but yes. You see, you have a responsibility to your guru, to be honest. Anytime you perform, you should imagine that your guru is sitting in the front row. As one of my students would say, to his family, to his guru, and to the God. And you have that responsibility. God meaning a spiritual truth. A spiritual reality. You see, when you perform on a stage, you as a performer have the choice, depending on your own personality and what you've gotten from your teacher. And a lot of teachers are called gurus, but they are teachers. They're neither master teachers nor are they the kind of mentors and generous teachers that deserve the word guru. So you're on a stage. It's up to you what you want to do there. Do you want to just entertain? Do you want to show off how beautiful you are? Do you want to say you're a good bahu? Do you want to say you'd be a good potential bride for somebody to see how talented you are? Or do you want to offer the audience a darshan? Are you doing a puja? Are you creating a sacred space? It's totally up to you. That's totally up to you what you want to do. I feel that aiming for more than just entertainment makes it worth the challenges and the efforts of a lifetime in this art. Otherwise you could do something that's just pure entertainment.
We say that there is a bhakti ras whenever we are performing on stage, be it in front of the audience or be in front of the Lord, like stages like temples. Okay, but if this is a performing art, should we not devote ourselves to the art, like rather than thinking that it's devotion to the Lord? Like for example, if we are doing Pallavi, it does not mention anywhere about the God, right? So, will the surrender to the art form will not suffice uh, your exceptional performance of Pallavi, or it is always the God?
Well, if you take God very, if you take God in a very literal sense, like a God, and it's for that God, I think you need to broaden it because the God, it's a metaphor, right? In the same way that Radha is a metaphor, human love is the metaphor for divine. You can have a Jagannath Murti on the stage, but you don't need it because the divine is everywhere. For us, many people think of a form because that's how far our intellect and ability can go. And then some people can go beyond toward the non duality, toward the unknown ultimate reality, which is beyond God, actually, you know, where everything is, where there is no like finite independent existence. So it's how it's how you phrase what is that that thing rather than like a God. I'm doing it like that. You as a performer doing this art are doing it in a dialogue, you can say soul to soul with your audience. You have this opportunity to have this intimate sharing of your emotional self with a large number of people in the safety of this invisible wall. So when you're doing a Pallavi, you can do it as a PT exercise where you're just doing all of these things. Or you can be like I tell my students, it's like every step you do, have a conversation with the audience. Say, okay, I'm doing this again, but this is the last time. It's going to be slow now. It's going to pick up. Or don't you like this? This is one of my favorite movements. Or isn't this interesting? See how it's changing? You think, and then it'll come through in your eyes. Because you see, if I'm looking at you, I can look at you like I'm seeing you, seeing. Or I can be blank and it's like my eyes are forward, but you know, who are you? I don't see you. And you can tell that in the pupils, whether it's focused or whether it's blank. You're coming onto the stage, which is no longer the time to be insecure. You have to decide, okay, back straight. People have given up their time. They're here. I have to give everything that I can. And this, you can call that, you can call it what, spiritual? I mean, it's like, let me put it this way. If you're offering a puja, um, you should be focused, you should be clear. You're making an offering to the audience of this art. And this art um, has this divinity to it. Only, and it's not only in the Abhinaya, because there's a balance between them. So, also, it's up to you whether you think when you come on the stage that even this Pallavi, you're doing it in a sacred place, or whether you're just doing it like you're in a dance hall, right? I mean, I once in a while, I like to remind people, students, you do your Bhumi Pranam. And then I'll say, what were you thinking about while you did it? And they're like, they're just doing it. Well, a ritual like a computer, it's what you use it for. The fact that you touched the floor doesn't mean anything unless you're saying, I'm so grateful. This floor is smooth. There's no nails. There's no up and down. There's no earthquake. I'm sorry. If I'm betal, you apologize to the Gandharvas. Think, whatever you think. And so when you're doing Pallavi pure dance, you also think. I mean, I asked somebody once, because I also didn't get it, like Mokhya, short Mokhya. I'm like, so what's the real point of doing this? I mean, we've done a Pallavi. What's the point? But then I realized that you put that feeling of Mokhya and you're like, and you're giving everybody blessings as you're doing it, and you're giving them, and you're having this anand of that. So it's your choice.
Wow, that was beautifully put, ma'am. So now we come to the very interesting segment of Nivikalpa Talks, rapid fire round. So I will be giving you two options, or you can, there will be few questions in which you have to give one word answer. Okay, ready, ma'am?
Red one word answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So from traditional repertoire items or choreographic work, what do you like most?
You mean my own choreographic work or
Yeah,
traditional items by my gurus?
yeah. Which do you like more?
Who I like best? Well, I think that my guru's items are the best because they're brilliant and they have music choreographed, composed by Pandit Bhubaneswar Mishra, so they're perfect. But the advantage to my own choreographic work is that I'm free and I can change things, which I can't do with my guru's choreography. Sorry,
Uh,
not really.
Hastamudras or footwork, what excites you more?
They're equally important, but I would say maybe I can't choose. I think maybe Hasta Abhinaya as part of Abhinaya.
Wow. So from Jayadeva's Ashtapadis and Pallavi, what do you like more?
Ashtapadis.
I think I knew that answer, still I asked. One word to describe what Odissi dance is in your life.
It's a blessing.
Wow. Minimum number of times you practice an item before performing.
Twice.
So this is like before performing on the day of performance.
No, I mean like before I have to perform something and I have to revise something. So I'll perform it maybe 3 times. I
Okay.
mean, in 3 days.
Any choreography of Guruji that you can perform on repeat?
On what?
On repeat. Like you will never get
Uh,
bored of it.
Really, any of them, all
Wow.
of them.
If not a dancer, what you would be?
Um, Jim Henson from the Muppets offered me a job with them. I would be probably a puppeteer, or a university professor of dance.
Very interesting. And three things always that are in your bag, dance bag.
Hmm, what's always in my dance bag? Extra safety pins, obviously, my gungos. Um, can I think of anything interesting? Nothing so
Juda pins.
special.
Juda
Huh?
pins. U pins.
Um, yes. Um, Lipstick, extra lipstick.
Okay. If you could time travel, which era of dance history would you visit?
I might like to go back to the time of the Buddhist dances, the yogini dances in Orissa. That would be interesting.
Wow. That's really interesting topic for me to research now. So here we end with the rapid fire round, ma'am. Thank you so much for being a part of Nirvikalpa Talks once again. It was immense pleasure to know about you, to understand and to um, relive uh, your 50 years journey in such a short time span.
Well, thank
Thank you
you
so
for wanting
much.
to hear what I had to say. And I hope it's of interest to someone.
Yes, yes, definitely, ma'am. It will resonate with all of our
Namaskar.
audience. Thank you so much. Namaste, ma'am.